Genesis 37. Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flocks with his brother, or with his brothers. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and they were Dan and Naphtali, and the sons of Zilpah, they were Gad and Asher, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report to them to his father. Now, this bad report it doesn't elaborate on, but we understand that some of these shepherds, people that were looking after the cattle, they treated the animals cruelly. So they would cut off a leg, and then they would eat that, but they wouldn't kill the animal. And so they would deface the animals, delimb the animals, but they weren't kind, they were cruel. Verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Now remember, Joseph, it says he was 17 years old, but his brothers were much older, because when they left where Laban's place, when they eventually came back home, they were ready. I think the youngest was about 6. So how many years went past before Joseph was born? So these guys could be 10 years plus older than Joseph. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamt. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." Now what's interesting is sheaf, and a lot of times the Bible uses symbols to describe certain things so that we can understand that. And a sheaf here can represent a person. So remember, Jesus said, "I am the bread of life, come down from heaven." Jesus said, "I am the bread." Jesus said, "I'm the first fruit." So we understand these sheaf to represent a person in this dream or this vision. And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. And it's interesting here, they look in short term, they can't understand this, but God has already looked into the future when they would come to Egypt and definitely bow down to Joseph, but they wouldn't even recognize him initially or at all that he was Joseph, because he had to reveal himself to them. Says, "Then he," that's Joseph, "dreamt still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, 'Look, I have dreamt another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me.' So he took it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, 'What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?' And his brothers envied him, but his father kept this matter in mind." I just quickly want to pop over to Revelation 12 and show you how the Lord uses the Old Testament symbols to come to the New Testament to tell us something. And in Revelation 12 it says, "Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then big with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. He drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and the child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there for 1,260 days. So it's interesting here that that same symbol is used in Revelation, and it depicts the nation of Israel clearly And the child born, it says clearly here, is Messiah. So even there we have a tie-in and an explanation. Then his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. Remember what happened in Shechem? Levi and Simeon, they told those people, no, get circumcised, and they killed them. And then the rest of the boys plundered that city. And Israel said to Joseph, are not your brothers feeding the flocks in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. So he said to him, here I am. Then he said to him, please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me. So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him there, and he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what are you seeking? So he said, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks. And the man said, they have departed from here, for I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. So I think the distance between Shechem and Dothan is maybe about an hour. Not sure if that's walking or driving. Verse 18, now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. I mean, these were rough boys. We think of them as 12 brothers running around, snot-nosed and dirty face. But they were men. I mean, what had happened here is, besides that killing, Reuben had slept with Bilhah, his father's concubine, which the Bible referred to here as Jacob's wife. So these were brutal people. Then they said to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. Yeah, this hatred and this jealousy, envy is really like top notch. Verse 27. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. Now Reuben, who had slept with Bilhah, is come almost to save his life. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him. And Reuben's thinking was that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph by his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into the pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And that's telling us that's why he didn't drown in that pit. Verse 25, and they sat down to eat a meal. Look at that, He's in the pit, and they just carry on eating. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? So here's Judah, and Jesus came from the tribe of Judah. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. And here he redeems his brother. So interesting symbolism again. Verse 27, come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him. For he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then the Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. Then Reuben returned to the pit. Now he's expecting to still see Joseph in the pit. And indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. Why? Because he thought that his brothers had killed him. And he returned to his brothers and said, the lad is no more. And I? Where shall I go? So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent a tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, we have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not? And he recognized it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted and said, for I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning. Thus his father wept for him. Just think of what these brothers did, this family did to the father. I mean, absolute deception. Verse 36 ends like this. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. So they sold him basically to a military ruler or leader in Egypt.